Welcome back to Jager Racing, and welcome my 2015 Ford Mustang GT. Yes, I succumb. I went with a V8 car. Went a little bit easier. So as many of you may know, the Subaru is no longer. I have retired it. I have parted it out. It is gone. What it brings birth to now is this project. So the Mustang is coming in. We're gonna go out to the track with it. We're gonna have fun with it. We're gonna put some parts on it. The whole point, again, kind of like the Miata, is to be able to have fun, go tracking, drive it there, drive it home, just have a good time overall. Also, this is gonna be a nice car that still has AC, so if I wanna take it out somewhere, drive it back and forth to work, or anything like that, I'm gonna be able to do that. Alright guys, let's jump into it. I'll get to show you all the parts that I'm gonna get, and all the parts that are gonna go on the car. So as we start out with this, one of the things that I instantly noticed after just giving a few laps around the track, nothing serious, nothing really worth talking about really, and after searching some of the Facebook groups and forums and all the other little random things, would be cooling. Cooling's going to be a bit of an issue, obviously, when you're stacking AC and radiator and all these other things. It's always going to be a little bit more of an issue. Also, I've heard things about oil cooling is needed. I'm a big person on not stacking. Whenever you start stacking things on top of each other, you're literally transferring one heat transfer piece to the next. So I like to generally keep them out from right behind each other, but in this case, Mishimoto makes a kit that bolts right in, makes it really nice, so I couldn't quite pass that up. We'll see. Maybe I have to change it out after a little bit. Maybe it doesn't work quite as efficiently, or maybe it transfers too much heat to the radiator, but that's what I went with. Next piece is the piece that sits right behind that, which is going to be the radiator. So I picked up a off-the-shelf Csf Radiator, just a really affordable piece, around $500 I believe, $400 or $500. Just a nice piece that you can bolt right in, have work on the car. So obviously that's going to an aluminum, thicker core, so on and so forth. Also, the company I was buying some of these parts from, Steeda, they had a coolant overflow tank, reservoir, whatever you want to call the thing. They made that out of aluminum. Supposedly the plastic tanks are kind of known for cracking or breaking or exploding, I don't know, one of the things where it leaks fluid. So figured why not just go with the aluminum piece, use the original cap, sits right on there, so that's a pretty easy one to do. Obviously going to go with some Mishimoto coolant lines just to refresh all that. I did pick up a used, obviously, 2015 Mustang, so might as well replace the lines while you're in there. One of the things I liked as well about the Mishimoto kit was the fact that now it divorces the coolant item that goes around where the filter goes, so it heats up the oil and cools the oil a different, depending on if you're hotter or colder than the oil. It's kind of an efficiency thing to get things up to temperature, so on and so forth, but I'm not going to drive this every day. This isn't a daily driver, so I don't necessarily need that as part of my thing. Also, I live in Southern California, so for the most part it's usually hot or warm. So it is what it is. The next couple pieces I picked up kind of allow more air in to that area. So I picked up some of the Rtr Grills, a couple of their grills, front, lower and upper. Those grills are going to allow more air into the area to allow more cooling. We'll actually see, obviously the original, it's kind of, it keeps it capped off on the outsides. So I'll be interested to see what the ducting looks like once I kind of get in there to see if that's actually going to be a hindrance or a help. We'll see. I got to replace a fog light bezel. It was cracked on the car when I got it. And Track Spec Motorsports, they make vents that actually replace the original vents. That's going to allow more air to vent out of the hood. So that's going to be a quick little thing. Looks like there's a little bit of cutting, a little bit more than just a bolt-in situation. But compared to other people on the market that are literally cutting up the hood exponentially, I didn't want to go that far just yet. Obviously, again, living in Southern California, it's hot. So there might be hood vents coming in the near future for it, but at the current situation, I wanted to keep the car what most people do. You don't want to take a brand new car and cut it all to hell. You want to take your new car and you want to add things to it that you can maybe take off if you don't like, or if you're going to sell the car, or something of that nature. So kind of all these parts are something that you can bolt on, bolt off, replace with the original stuff, whatever it might be, but trying to keep it kind of simple. Bolt-on affairs, just because, as you might know, I've done the full custom route. And even with the Miata, there's some customization there. But it is nice when you can just have these companies that put in the engineering effort to put something on your car that you can literally just bolt in, bolt off, whatever you want to call it, and it worked perfectly. So why not give them a shot, see how they work out. Also, this is the first round. Next I have some braking components from Argon Concepts coming up. So that's pretty exciting as well. And as we go to the track, we're going to basically get a feel for the car, see what it does, and improve. Again, I'm going to be the first to say this, it's already V8. Yes, power is a glorious thing, but there's something to be said about reliability, and I want to keep it that way. So reliable is the way to go. I'm going to be very minimalist on what the actual power adders go onto this car are. It already has a Gibson catback exhaust, so it actually already has a pretty good sound to it. Not too loud, not too quiet, so that's already there. Beyond that, the car has, I believe, 4 performance lowering springs, which, no idea really on performance value of those, but it makes it look nice. So we'll leave it like that for a little bit until we progress to the point of maybe throwing a set of coilovers on it. And we still have all the suspension component stuff to work with on this 2015 Mustang with its new independent rear suspension. So, alright guys, let's get to it. So, first step, gotta take all this crap off. So, we'll take this all off. And we get amazing puppets. Puppets. So much fun. Puppets. 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 On to the next step. Next step is taking these bolts out, which I was not expecting to see what I saw. Super coarse thread long bolts. Was expecting like a short little metric something or others. What can you do? And now it's time to be under the car and get the 1,000 screws that they used to hold the bottom of this on. I don't understand. Is Thor gonna come strike lightning on this thing? Why are there 100 screws? I don't get it. Alright, so now we got the bumper off, as you can see. Here it is. So you can kind of get an idea of the restriction that the actual grill was having. Granted that, Ford engineered it this way, but being the fact that we're trying to track it in 100-degree heat, it'd be great to have it be just a little bit more open. So we're going to put the Rtr Grills on. It doesn't look too hard, just a couple plastics, removing some stuff. No biggie, get her done. Now we got the grills out. pull the fog light bezel out still, so I can replace that. But for the most part, now I'm gonna go and install the new grills in, and the bumper will be all complete. Right way. All right. Well, it's starting to get hot, and but we have this fine specimen in place, as well as the lower grill. So that makes it kind of nice. You can definitely see the difference in the amount of air that's able to come through across the board. So we'll see. Had to replace that because, crack. So now we're moving on to the radiator and the oil cooler. As you can hear in the background, I'm only peeing a little bit. Drain the radiator fluid, and then put this little guy on there. The question is, do I want to just pull the hose off and get it everywhere, but it drains in like 2 seconds? I'll wait. And that's the bumper off. Well, on a positive note, it definitely looks like the air coming in will be shrouded and push in to, in this case, the condenser, which will then go to the radiator / oil cooler. So, not a bad thing. So now we're going to dive into the Csf Radiator Installation. So I already took the expansion, reservoir, whatever the hell thing is, off. So now just take off the mounts that hold it up on top. And we'll start diving in. One thing to take special consideration on, apparently, is that the condenser is attached to the radiator. And if you like your AC, you'll not screw this up. Now I just have to transfer over the fans, which is kind of interesting. They have these little flaps, so when you're sitting still and you're using the fans, it's coming directly out of there, but when you get moving, it's going to open these flaps and allow air to flow more freely through the radiator at higher speeds. Kind of interesting.
An interesting comparison shows that the actual thickness of the radiator seems to be very slight. Obviously you get metal end tanks instead of plastic, so that's always a positive, but I was kind of expecting the thickness to be quite a bit thicker, kind of like what we normally see. Although I have noticed on new Koyos they seem to be going with a thinner core, so interesting. And of course just reusing the stock hardware in the two places where it had it. Doesn't take a lot. And I just use these to tension the fan there. Now we're ready to put it in the car. Sadly, we won't be seeing this because it'll be behind a condenser. Not a very big fan of this condenser attached to the radiator fan. Take the screws out. Might be an easier way. Okay, so now we're to the part where we're into the Mishimoto oil cooler setup, being the fact that it seemed like a good time to do it when everything's already apart. So now I'm not draining, but I'm pulling off the K&N oil filter and then gonna set it up. So we're gonna pull the cooler, the oil water cooler thing off, and then just replace it with a sandwich adapter that's thermostatic, so that it only opens at a certain temperature range of the oil. So you're not cooling your oil when you don't need to, because just like anything else, something that's too cool can be just as bad as something that's too hot. So I'm gonna treat this with care because I'm gonna reuse it because I just changed the oil about 500 miles ago. So after a little ingenuity to get this out, considering I don't have a 14mm long Allen wrench, a little ingenuity there. The cooler heater thing comes out, still ripe with coolant apparently, and then dump the rest of the coolant in the oil. Now we've got to clean off some surface, and then we can mount our thermostatic sandwich adapter and screw her all back together. So now we're installing the provided sandwich plate soon as I can find the threads. It'd also be a lot more fun to do this on a lift. But, unlike some people, Cody Miles, not all of us have a lift. And you're just now orientating it so you're not going to hit the alternator, it looks like. Yeah, it should work. So the good old fellows over there at Mishimoto say you got to torque her to 30 foot-pounds. So I'll bust out my sweet snap-on torque wrench and do her to it.
Alright, now the only thing that's really left on this oil cooler install, I already put the shroud on. Kind of missed that part. But just got to put the oil cooler onto the shroud. Kind of nice that they made it so you can bolt this directly onto there. They put some spacers in between so it's not metal on metal. And then after that, then we're going to run some lines. Alright, so now we're down to the hoses. I just snapped this on. It's a new Mishimoto hose with a new Mishimoto coupler piece. So obviously it looks like I'm going to have to trim this ever so slightly. Better to take off a little bit at a time than too much. Grab the clamps so you don't put it on 13 times. At least if this clamp is over it, I don't have to take it off again. There, now I got good clearance here, good clearance from the fan. This is going to come probably up and over it, I believe. So that can be cinched down. Oh. So with the bottom hose, this is it. It's a V. V. So it's a very interesting little design here. We actually, are deleting the other lines that came off of the hose from the previous. So now it's just simply out of the water pump, or from the water pump back in. So kind of simplifies the coolant system. You're not having the coolant system quote unquote interact with the oil system at the little thing, sandwich adapter. So kind of cool. I like that. It simplifies it a little bit. After taking those quick release things off, yeah, screw those. So I would never put those on ever again. Otherwise, I'd probably just cut them because I hate them right now. But we'll move on to this. On the plus side, this is the last pieces to the Mishimoto kit. One thing you're going to see me do on all of these is go back over and do it by hand, just because, first of all, it's good just to make sure. And one thing is my tool is very torquey. Always make sure to hook up your electrical again. Always sucks when your fans don't turn on. Alright, and we got our final part that we're putting on today, which is the expansion tank or reservoir, whatever you want to call it. Looks a lot nicer. It's nice and black, and goes right into its home from previous. Put this hose on down here, and then I'll get it going. Fit in there.